Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. Author Jean Burk is a homeschooling mother and creator of the revolutionary and award-winning College Prep Genius, a curriculum which has helped thousands of high school students prepare for the SAT and PSAT. As a homeschooling mom, Jean did not have the financial resources to send her children to college. When she discovered that the SAT and PSAT were keys to getting huge scholarships, she began to research the tests to understand how to prepare her children. She discovered that these tests could be taught. They weren't our key tests, but rather critical thinking exams. After both her children received full-ride scholarships, Jean began teaching these secrets to other homeschool, public, private, and charter school students. Her program, College Prep Genius, is the culmination of more than a decade of research, classroom experience, and SAT expertise. We will have a question and answer session after Jean's presentation. Please feel free to add any questions you may have to the chat box at any time, and we will get to as many as possible when she concludes. I hope you will all join me in welcoming Jean.
Thank you so much. I am so excited about this seminar, and I'm excited for a lot of reasons, but for you out there, let me ask you a quick question. How many of you out there would love to get free college? Just put something other in that chat box and let me know your thoughts about that. It's so life-changing, and you know, I love changing lives. Almost daily or weekly, I get someone to email me or call me and tell me, you know, what their child is doing or how they raised their scores 500 points or went to some amazing school, and that really came from, you know, a need for our family. If you've never heard me speak before, let me kind of give you a quick background. These are just some of the television shows I've been on, but about 16 years ago, we literally had no money for college. I mean, we, like most of you out there, were homeschooling families, one income, and my husband worked and I was at home with the kids, and we just didn't have any money. I mean, there was nothing, and we wanted our kids to go to school, but didn't have any way without, you know, getting into financial debt or retirement or equity or any of that stuff. And my friend mentioned to me one day, she said, did you know there's free college simply based on a test, like an SAT, PSAT, ACT? And I'm like, really? Wow. So in my little head, I start thinking, maybe this is a way we can get some college money. And we certainly didn't have any money for one of those expensive prep schools that may or may not work. So Josh and I started going through the test, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. We bought some books at the store. We went to a couple classes. We went through lots of practice questions. And short story long, he became a National Merit Scholar. And we ended up throwing away 7 trash bags full of college offers. And what these were, these came into our mailbox every day for about a year. Full ride, free tuition, room and board, grad school, money to study abroad, just on and on. How many of you out there just want to get one free ride somewhere? Forget 7 trash bags. How about one? Yes. So after my daughter got her scholarship money, my friends wanted to know, hey, what did y'all do to get free college? And I wrote a book, started teaching a class out of my home. It was crazy because I started with 3 kids, 3 homeschool kids I knew, just kind of showing them some things that we went over and we learned. And that grew to where my living room and kitchen were maxed out. And then I started teaching out of schools in different cities, different states, and now different countries. It's been a really great ride. So today I'm hopefully going to show you some things where you too can get free college. We're nobody. I mean, just because I've been on these TV shows doesn't mean anything. I'm also a Fox News contributor, so I get to do a lot of fun radio. So these are just some of them. And you're going to find that I talk fast. Now, I am from Texas. Y'all can probably tell that. You know, put in a couple of words of where you're from. Just if you say something like, everything's bigger, then I know you're from Texas. But put a couple of words in to describe where you're coming from. But I'm going to give you a lot of information. You're probably going to feel like it's a brain overload. But don't worry about it. I will get you an email that you can get all the notes. So if you're like me and you're an incessant note taker and you're trying to write everything down, just sit back and relax, you know, take some notes if you want, but know that I'm going to basically show you how to get all the notes and some more tips on free college. Now, the crazy thing about college is that the cost of college has gone up 600% in the last 25 years. We in America are in a $1.4 trillion debt when it comes to college loans. And it takes the average student about 20 years to pay off college debt. The median debt for a student who's graduated is about $100,000. So that's a lot of money. And I don't know where you're coming from, but here in Texas, that is actually a house. You could get a house for somewhere around $100,000. You know, if you watch Fixer Upper, you see that all the time. I'm going to be down in Waco next week, so I'm pretty excited. I'm going to be in the area. I've been down there before, but it's a really fun place to go to. But that's the craziness of the cost and what it really entails for students. We don't want our kids to major in debt. We don't want our kids to be strapped with years, you know, 2 decades of their life paying off loans. So I want to start off by talking, before we start about the SAT and ACT, because this is a question that I get a lot about what's the difference, which college takes which one. So they are accepted by 100% of colleges. Every single college will take SAT or ACT, so it doesn't matter. And in reality, they're really about 99% the same test. There's such a crossover of information that once you learn how to beat one test, you can use that same information to beat the other one. As a matter of fact, in 2012, when David Coleman took over for the College Board, it was the first time in history that more kids took the ACT than the SAT, 1.8 million to 1.7 million. So David Coleman, what he did was he hired ACT writers to rewrite the SAT. So this is why you're going to see very similar tests. Now, both the SAT and ACT are used for college entrance as well as college scholarships. Now, if the college does prefer one or the other, they will convert the score. So if your student got a 1340 SAT, that's the same as a 29 on the ACT, or vice versa. But again, same strategies work for both tests. Now, here's kind of some minor differences that you're going to notice on both tests. Now, you'll notice right here, the reading section is going to have similar passages. There's going to be 4 answers versus 5 on the ACT. The writing and English test the same on both. The math pretty much tests the same. Now, there is no science on the SAT, only the ACT. But here's good news. You don't have to know 1 iota of scientific knowledge to ace the science section. And it's just like the reading section on the SAT. So I'm going to show you a cool example in a moment. Now, the biggest difference for me, I think, is the essay. One is an analytical response and one is a persuasive response. And by the way, the notes that I'm going to send you, this chart will be in it. So you don't have to worry about trying to write all that down. Now, before we get on to the SAT and ACT, I want to make sure I tell you about the new CLT, the Classic Learning Test. It's been around probably going on about 2.5 years now. It's the new alternative to the SAT and ACT. You're going to find that it has more of the Western traditions, like passages from C.S. Lewis, very rich content. It's offered 5 times a year. It's taken on a device like a tablet or a iPad or a computer, and kids will get the results the same day. Now, like the SAT and ACT, it is used for college entrance as well as scholarship money. Right now, it's in about 120 colleges, including Patrick Henry, Bryan, Liberty Christian, Liberty University, and it's on their website. We'll list all their colleges. The great thing about the CLT is that, again, it's just another way for your kids to learn how to take a test and do it differently. And again, it can open up doors to some of these colleges. I think that they're adding schools all the time, so definitely check into them. Now, you can actually do some practice tests on their website, cltexam.com or cltprep.com. If you take a practice test, use the code CPG18. That will enter your student into a drawing for an Apple Watch. And if you take the actual CLT, enter the code CPG18, and that will cut your tuition in half. So it takes it from about $50 down to $25. I'm very honored and excited to tell you that the CLT partnered with us, College Prep Genius, to be the only test prep company that they recommend. So we are writing a program specifically for the CLT that should be out sometime next year. But I'm really excited about it. So definitely check into CLT. So let's get into the SAT, how to ace the SAT. Now, SAT, the acronym SAT does not stand for anything. Through the years, it's gone through several changes, anywhere from Scholastic Aptitude, Scholastic Assessment, and all of that. Right now, it's just plain old SAT. But I like to call it a standardized assessment test. Because when the College Board writes this test, they use the same patterns, same profiles, and same rules on every test. This is why you can beat this test. You can figure this test out. You don't have to be a brainiac. As a matter of fact, we get numerous valedictorians in our classroom all the time that bomb the SAT. Most of the schools that we're at, I think probably the top 10% of schools are in them because, you know, they're great students with honors and AP classes, yet they can't pass this test. And I'm going to show you why today. So why do they bomb it? Well, it's not about IQ. This is a test about logic and critical thinking. How well can you answer questions under pressure? Because it doesn't matter what school you go to. Every school weighs and calculates their scores differently. A 4.0 at one high school is not the same at another. So the colleges have to have a fair way to level the playing field. And that's why they use a standardized test like an SAT or even an ACT. Now, even as homeschoolers, we have different scores for our kids. One's from one homeschool to another, completely different. But the SAT is the only common denominator that is the common element for every homeschooler or every public school, private school, that for every applicant, it's the numerical element that's common to everyone. And it is that great yardstick. And what the colleges do, they take this recorded data and they use it for future. So for example, if a student went to apply for college and let's say they had a 1350, then the colleges can look at their past record and see all the students who scored somewhere around a 1350 and say, okay, how well did this student do? What was their level of performance? You know, did they graduate? Did they graduate with honors? Did they ultimately become a supporting alumni? And they really take that seriously because pretty much the same score for one person is pretty much going to be the level of another, because these are critical thinking skills, and which is a good readiness for college. To be able to enter for college, you need some kind of college readiness, and so that's why they use these tests. Right now, only about 1/3 of all students who enroll in college will actually graduate. So we're talking 2/3 are going to drop out. And that's a lot of wasted scholarship money that colleges tend to give students. So they really want to make sure that your student is not only going to graduate, but hopefully come back and make the school look good. Now, the biggest complaint that I've heard, I've taught test prep for 14 years, and the biggest complaint I've heard is that the student cannot finish the test on time. You get about a minute per question. And most students are going to do it the normal way that they do at school. They're going to work out everything the long way, show all their work. They're going to read every question, every answer, every bit of the passage. And they're going to get about halfway through, and then the timer's going to go off. They're just going to burn up the clock. But the good news is every question can be answered in 30 seconds or less. It's a matter of your student just knowing how to do that. So you'll notice right here on this chart, which again will be in your notes that you'll get, 36 seconds, 52 seconds a question, 47 seconds a question, 75 seconds. You can see why most students can't finish the test on time, because it's logistically impossible if you're doing it the normal way. The good news is you don't have to do it the normal way, because this is a completely different animal than your history, your math, your science, your English. It's knowing how to approach this test and become a trained test taker. And a lot of students will say, well, Mrs. Burk, I always feel like more than one answer can work. Well, the test is designed that way. But honestly, the questions are purposely misleading, and the wrong answers can be very appealing, very tricky. And so it's really, really easy to fall for the wrong answers. But this test is objective. There's only one right answer, and there's 3 answers that are distractors that you have to figure out what's wrong with them. But it's a beatable test. And I think a big mistake that students make is they read the question and they look for the right answer. That's not what you do on these type of tests, because they're too tricky. You read the question and you eliminate the trick answers first, and that's going to, of course, leave you with the right answer. And then why take the PSAT? Well, the PSAT is made by the College Board, just like the SAT. Very similar type of questions. The P does not stand for practice. The P stands for preliminary. And the full name is actually PSAT/NMSQT, National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. So when we threw away 7 trash bags with my son of these college offers, it was on his PSAT score. He hadn't even taken the SAT yet. So basically, if you're studying for one, you're over preparing for the other one. So you definitely want to be doing both tests, not just one. Now, same type of questions, and the most you can get on the PSAT is a 1520 as opposed to a 1600 on the SAT. And the only real difference is there's 15 minutes less, and there's no optional essay and a little less math. But why in the world are colleges willing to give you such amazing perks? Because it's a bragging right for them to let everybody know how many National Merit Scholars they have. Now, depending on what state you live in, has to do with the cutoff score for your state. So for example, here I've got California, the predicted score is 1470. Texas is 1460. Depending on where you live, you'll notice right down here in this link, collegeprepgenius.com/predicted PSAT scores. And again, that will be in your notes. But if you will go to that link, you can find out for your state. You're going to find that there's a very big difference. Some of the states, some of the more middle states, for example, the flyover states, as we now call them, have lower scores because those states tend to only push the ACT, not the SAT, even though every college takes either one. The high schools do that because it's very political. And when they don't promote the SAT, they don't promote the PSAT. So definitely the scores are going to be less. So when do you take your PSATs? Well, believe it or not, you can take the PSAT 8-9 as early as 4th grade for like a Duke talent search. But I'm a big believer in starting at least in 8th grade. Now, you can certainly start, we teach a lot of 6th and 7th graders, but your 8th grader can take the PSAT 8-9. It doesn't count. It's putting time on your side. You can never get time back. And so when you start your kids early, they have the time to figure out what their weaknesses are and what they're doing wrong and correct them long before it counts for scholarship money in the junior year. Now, it's only once a year. The main one for the junior is in October. We have the next one coming up. PSAT is October 10th and 13th. You can take either date, and there's an alternate date as well. And then there's 3 levels of awards for the PSAT. Now, you definitely want to sign up at the school. You cannot sign up online. You have to actually physically go in the door and sign up. But as long as you check the appropriate boxes, you can actually get your test booklet back in the mail as a homeschooler. So you definitely want to do that. So take the PSAT 8-9 in 8th grade, take it in 9th grade, take the PSAT 10 in 10th grade, and then the junior year is where all the big scholarship money is. Now, a lot of times I hear people say, well, you know, colleges will think you're dumb if you take the SAT a bunch of times. That is so not true. As a matter of fact, colleges get their national rankings based on test scores. So the higher the score, the more money you get because you basically make them look good. So they want you to keep going back and taking the SAT. You can take the SAT unlimited amounts of time, and they do not average them. Now, it's offered 7 times a year. The SAT, the first one is in August, the last one's in June, and most colleges will super score. So in other words, if you get a great math score, let's say in October, and then you get a better reading score in December, then they'll take the highest scores or cherry pick to give you an overall higher score, which is more money, of course, for your student. And there's no age limit. I mean, I've had 10-year-olds take my class. You can go take it if you've been out of high school a few years. It doesn't matter. And the beauty of starting your kids early and taking the pressure off them is that you never have to send the scores in if you don't want to. It's called score choice, which means you can let them go and take the test and keep taking it. And then when you get ready and you feel like they've got a great score, later on, you can send that score in whenever you want. So it really does make a difference for them. So when they go in there, they're not stressing. So how do you begin for the SAT? Well, start with the College Board website, collegeboard.org. Now, if you want to find out what schools in your area are given it, there's a school search box when you go to this website and put your zip code in. It'll show you all the schools in your area that are administering the SAT. You can sign up online. You can also sign up by mail. It's over $50 with a optional cost for the essay now. And the fee information is generally going to be on their website, but you can get waivers. Now, even homeschoolers can get waivers, and that's where you can get so many tests free per year, usually in the junior and the senior year. You can even get a waiver for the PSAT as well as the subject tests. Now, if you have students with special needs, you can apply for accommodations. Sometimes that could mean double time, half time, no time constraints. Doing it on the computer or orally. What happens is they will hire a separate proctor and test your student in another room. So definitely check into it. But one of the things I have to really encourage you is to do it early. Sometimes it could take as much as a year to get accommodations. So you definitely want to start, way ahead of time, way before the test. Now, I want to get into the strategies of how to beat this test. The kids love the strategies because they come into the class and go, well, no wonder I bombed the test. I mean, I'll have parents say to me, I brought my kid kicking and screaming to this class. They did not want to come at all. And then on the way home, they couldn't stop talking about it, because when they saw that this is a beatable test and that there's fast ways to answer the question, then they realized what they were doing wrong. And then it really gives them that confidence and motivation to want to go home and really continue practicing for this test. So the reading section, there are 3 types of passages. There's what's called the long passage, which has several paragraphs. Then you have what's called the long passage with a graph or chart. And then you have what's called the dual passages, where students are given 2 different passages that either agree, disagree, or complement one another. Now, when you get to this test, it's really important to know that there are 5 types of questions. Most students approach the reading section, and by the way, it is the #1 hated section of the test, but they approach it like English class. So they take this passage and they start to read, analyze, and try to interpret it. Do not do that. Absolutely do not do that. That is a huge time waster, and it's not necessary. All you need to know is there are 5 types of questions, and there's a different way to answer each one. There's what's called the line citation question. This question will cite a line. So it might say in line 12, what was the author thinking? Or the vocabulary use question, which will ask you about a particular word, like what does the word help mean in line 4? Then you have what's called the overall passage question. Now this is going to ask you about the entire text. What's the main idea of this passage? Then you're going to have what's called command of evidence. And this question will ask you about a previous question. And then you sometimes will have a chart or graph that will ask you to analyze the chart and find the right information. Now, what I said earlier is your goal is not to look for the right answers, because they're so tricky that one little word can make the whole answer wrong. You want to eliminate the wrong answers first. You want to challenge every answer choice. What do I not like about this answer? So how many of you out there, with a show of a yes or no, or maybe your student, second guesses himself or overthinks the question? How many of you do that? I know I do, and I think it's pretty prominent for most people. I see those coming in. And you know what's crazy? That's how the test is designed. It's designed to make you do that. You might read the question, pick the right answer, and then all of a sudden you look at the other answer choices and you go, well, that one looks like it could work, or that one could work. And now you change your answer, and then you often get it wrong. But let me show you the 4 tricks that the College Board uses to make you do that. And these are found primarily in the line citation question. And it falls under my acronym COAT, C-O-A-T. So they'll give your student an answer that's completely irrelevant to the question. Has nothing to do with it. It's immaterial. It probably has something to do with another part of the passage. They'll give your student an answer that's obscure or has some kind of confusing relationship, or some additional information, extra stuff that wasn't originally there, or totally contradictory, says the opposite. So once your student learns these 4 tricks, and by the way, the fact that it's a standardized test means they use the same exact tricks on every single test. So your goal is to read the question and eliminate any answers that fall under this acronym, COAT. And once you can eliminate these tricks, then that leaves you the one answer that doesn't break any of these rules. So let me give you an example. Adam's grandmother neatly packed 2 snacks for him in his lunch sack. He couldn't wait to discover their identity because he knew they were always unique and yummy. And then the question says, why does the author mention Adam's daily routine? A, to show how poor the family was and couldn't afford a lunchbox. Well, that's a little obscure and has confusing to what the question's really asking. Relay the grandmother's love for Adam. Now, this is a really tricky answer choice that a lot of students will pick because they're overthinking it, saying, Obviously, she loves him. I mean, she's up at the crack of dawn every morning on Pinterest looking for these unique snacks, right? It's got to be from love. Well, we don't know the grandmother's motivation. This is adding some additional information about the grandmother, and the question asks us about Adam. Compare how a good lunch helps the student excel. Well, the College Board is notorious for throwing in true answers. Like it's, we know it's important to have a good breakfast and good lunch to do well in school. That is actually true, but that is completely irrelevant to what the question's asking. To reveal how he is Adam, loved his grandmother's treats. So you can see how if a student doesn't know better, they will start reading into the answers and coming up with their own opinion or second guessing or overthinking everything. So you've got to be very, very careful. So here's another type of question on the reading section. It's called the vocabulary question. What does the word formative mean in line 12? Okay, so I'm going to let y'all do this one. Everybody out there, read line 12 and then put in your answer to tell me what you think it is. I'll have to let Kaylin let me know because I can't see your answers.
I'm seeing a couple of creatives.
Okay. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. What do y'all think it is?
Seeing driven.
Okay.
Creatives definitely in the lead. Couple of drivens. Ooh, so one obsessed.
Okay.
Got one life.
Okay.
So I'd say
creative,
7% creative,
yeah.
20% driven, 5% obsessed, and 5% life.
All right, very good. Okay, so thank you so much for putting those in. So let me tell you right now, so 75% of you said creative. Creative is the number one answer. It's wrong, but it's the number one answer. So you guys fell right there. That's very typical. A, driven, is number 2. It is also wrong. And B, obsessed, number 3, is also wrong. So it's actually D, the unknown word. So about 5% of you picked it and 95% of you didn't. And that's, again, very typical. And let me tell you what happened. A lot of students will look at the unknown word and they'll automatically say, well, I don't even know what that word means, so they'll just kind of gloss over it. Well, here's the good news. You don't have to know what that word means. This is not a content test. It's logic. There are over 171,000 words in the dictionary. There's no way we're going to know what the words are. So when it comes to a vocabulary word like this, here's the key. You look at the question and you look for what's called cause and effect words. In this case, the cause and effect word is because. Because of what? Because of their flexibility. So we need a word that goes with flexibility. Creative has nothing to do with being flexible. A and B actually mean the same thing, so they rule each other out. And by process of elimination, our answer is D. And you don't even have to know what it means. And by the way, live means flexible. So that's the beauty of this test. It's a beatable test as long as you know how to answer the questions. All right, now math. Here's good news. You don't have to be a math genius to ace the math section. Is anybody out there happy about that? Put a happy face in if you are, because I'm excited. I'm not a math genius. And let me tell you, I love the fact that it has nothing to do with how good you are in math. As a matter of fact, many students over the years have come to me and said, I love math. It's my number one subject in school, but it's always my lowest SAT score because they're used to doing it the long way and working out the problems and showing their work. And really, again, like I said, they're burning up the clock because you've only got about a minute per question. So there are 2 types of math on the test. Multiple choice with 4 answer choices and student response with no answer choices. And again, it's not some kind of college math. You probably know most of your math already. As a matter of fact, we have 7th graders who score higher than seniors, and they haven't been to high school yet. But it's actually easier math than you think. Sometimes it's just a normal math problem written in a bizarre way. But if you can learn the recurring hidden patterns and know the shortcuts on how to answer the questions in 30 seconds or less, and reading very carefully with a critical eye, you can do really, really well. So let me give you a couple examples. Now, keep in mind, there's lots of strategies and lots of ways to be, answer the questions quickly, but I only have time to do just a couple. All right. What is the product of these two numbers? Well, just look at the last two digits, 2 and 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Your answer will end in 6. And you'll notice there's only one answer that ended in 6. And of course, that's the right answer. And so you didn't have to round up or try to guess or get your calculator out and make a bunch of mistakes. You just have to train your brain to look at the last digits. And you can use that strategy, not just for multiplying, but adding, subtracting, properties, factors. It's just a cool strategy that you can learn to internalize when it comes to this test. In the figure below, a square is inscribed in a circle with diameter S. What is the sum of the areas of the shaded regions in terms of S? Now, most students are automatically going to start thinking geometry formulas. And they're going to start thinking about length times height, pi r square, and all these things. But let me show you one of the patterns that the College Board uses. Notice, all of them have an S square. All of them have a minus sign. 2 have 1/2, and 2 have pi over 4. So notice the answer that has something from everything. That's your correct answer. This is what I call clone invasion. Because what it is the College Board will write this question and they come up with the right answer, but now they have to create wrong answer choices to trick the students. So they'll take parts or variables of the right answer to create the wrong answers. So it only makes logical sense that the right answer has the most of everything, and that is your correct answer. And the cool thing about this is, I had a lady call me the other day, and she said she was doing a German. She sat on in one of my seminars, and she was doing a German test online. And she goes, I had no idea the word, but she goes, I remembered your strategy, so I tried it. Two of the answers had a certain word, and another 2 answers had a different word, and one answer had both words. And she goes, so I just picked it, and it was the right answer. So a cool strategy to learn. And this, again, this is only one of the patterns that appears on the math. All right, now let's talk about the writing section. The writing section on the SAT, students are given 4 passages, 44 questions, and 35 minutes to do it in. So you have 47 seconds per question. That's crazy. Plus reading the passages, plus transcribing your answers. There's no way that you can do it logistically if you do it the normal way. But the cool thing is, there's a pattern that will show up on the test as much as 75% of the time where you can answer the question in 10 seconds. Now, let me go over the 3 types of main questions that you're going to have. The first one is, if you have a question that does not have a prompt and the answers are very similar, like this right here, have spent, spends, is spending, it's going to test grammar. Now, the great thing is, on the test, you don't have to be a grammar genius, and you don't have to go back and study a bunch of grammar or rules that you've learned in elementary school. The College Board uses 13 recurring problems. And if you know the 13 problems, then that's all you need to be able to do well in this test. Now, if the question does not have a prompt and the answers are more varied, it's going to test style. And if the question does have a prompt, like right here, which choice provides the best combination, and the answers are varied, it's going to test reading analysis. So you're going to have 3 types of questions and only 13 recurring problems. So let me give you an example. You've got a passage up here that has an underlined part, and you have to read the underlined part, and if it's nothing wrong with it grammatically, then you pick no change. If there is a problem, you've got to find the answer. But keep in mind, you've got 47 seconds per question plus the 4 passages. So let me show you one of their patterns. Notice it starts with when, ends with us. Here's a couple whens and a couple us's. And notice the answer that has it all is the correct answer. All right, again, one of the patterns on the test. Now let's go over the essay. Now the essay is optional. And if you tell the average student that it's optional, what are they going to do? Not going to do it. That's right. They're not. But we're going to talk about the 5 reasons to always write the essay. It used to be 4, but I just added a new reason why you should always write the essay. First of all, if a college admissions counselor is on the fence about your student's application, they will use the essay as a determining factor. If you write the essay, and let's say if you take the SAT and you get a great, amazing score, but you opted out of the essay, and then you find out that the college that you want to go to requires the essay, you now have to go back and take the whole SAT over again. You can't just write the essay only. So you're already there, you might as well go ahead and write it. Another reason to write the essay is the fact that it gives your application a complete profile, which is not going to hinder scholarship money at all. And of course, there are colleges that will exempt your student from writing classes if they've written the essay. And then the newest reason to always write the essay is, and I just recently discovered this, and the new SAT has been around for over 2 years. But I found out that a student of mine came up to me and said, hey, I went to take the SAT and there was a 5th section. There was supposed to be 4 sections, but there was 5. I was like, what? What are you talking about? So I started doing research, and I found out that the College Board is taking some testing sites and giving them another section, experimental section. And they didn't make any fanfare about it. There's no mention on their website. There's no mention in their College Board book. The only place it's mentioned is in the Proctor books that they received. It says there might be a 5th section. Well, and that's very deceiving. But if you have opted in for the essay, you are exempt for that last section. It's not graded, but again, it takes your time to have to do it. Now, the essay is 50 minutes long, 50. And when the judges grade your essay, they're going to spend about 30 seconds on it. So they're not going to spend a lot of time. So they're only looking for a few key things to give you a high score. They're reading a bunch of subjective essays. And so they have to have an objective grading system to be able to compare everybody equally. And it will be an article that will be published work, and you're going to write an analytical response. And ultimately, you want your students to sound smart because they're reading thousands of essays. And when they come to your student's essay, you want them to go, whoa, that is the best essay I've written all day. So let me show you one paragraph from one of my templates. I have 30 different templates. I analyzed a lot of high-scoring essays, and I wrote the template, and all your student needs to do is do copy work. And when they go in to take the test, they can have 75% of their essay written in their head before they even start the test. So here's an example from one of the paragraphs that the students that get my program. And you'll notice the red in brackets. That is what they're going to fill in when they get to the test, when they read it. So for example, the first one would say in author's name. So in Kit Uri's article, and then inside the bracket it would say article name. So in Kit Uri's article, Home Again, he coalesces a very persuasive discourse that adult children moving back home, Uri cogently delivers a compelling argument supported by well-founded data, all of which result in the reader re-examining the implications of commonly held beliefs on the subject. He states that the monetary gain in fiscal situations has forced a return to the nest and uses key details by addressing the counter-arguments and cloaking it all in persuasive and compelling language from a keynote speech, a recent survey, and the Census Bureau. So it makes them sound really smart, like they spent hours analyzing this essay, but in reality, they didn't. They just had proven templates that they knew. And when they got to the test and they looked at the article, all they had to do was find the article's name, the author's name, and a few key facts, and then they can write an amazing high-scoring essay. Now, I do want to make sure before we go, I definitely want to show you an actual question from the ACT to show you how similar the test is and how you can actually, beat the ACT. We've got kids who've got 34s, 35s, and even 36s on their ACT by just using our SAT program. So you notice here the question says, which of the following best describes how 2 scientists explain how craters are removed from Europa's surface? Now up here, these are excerpts from the passages. Here is scientist 1 and here is scientist 2. And then down here you have a couple, here's some information from scientist 1 and here's some information from scientist 2, and very similar. You have water, sublimation, and wind. That's all you have. So let's look at scientist 1. It says that the liquid water oozed up into the crater. So if we go down here to our answer, you will see filled in by water. It's the only answer having to do with water. And you could just quit right now because you've got the answer. I mean, that's it. That's how quick and easy this is. But we want to, let's double check. And notice scientist 2 continually sublimes. So let's go down here to sublimation. And notice our answer, of course, is B. So again, that is a science question. You didn't have to know biology or physics or anatomy to be able to answer that question. As a matter of fact, if you never had any science, you could still answer that question. Now, I'm excited to tell you about the upcoming dates, test dates, so you have an idea. Now, you can go to their websites and, sign up and register, but you'll notice here the next SAT coming up is October 6th. Now, the deadline to register is October 26th, okay? Then there's a November and a December, and of course, on the website, they'll tell you when the deadline is. And of course, you can go to their website. This is the cost, each one. The PSAT coming up. Now, one of the things that's really important to know is that if your student, especially the junior, is taking the PSAT, and even the younger kids on October 10th, only the Wednesday date you can get your test booklet back. This is new this year. They just changed this. If you take the Saturday SAT, you won't get the test booklet back. And if you just take the alternate SAT date, you won't get the booklet back. So just the 10th. Now, you can sign up until the day of the test as long as they have room, and you go to the school, not online, to sign up for the test. ACT, similar. Again, these are the test dates, and these are the deadlines to sign up. And then, of course, the CLT as well. And then, of course, remember, if you're taking the CLT, whether you're doing the practice test or the real test, make sure you use the code CPG18 to cut that price in half. Now, here's the beauty of test taking and you as a homeschooling parent making it a classroom. You can use it as an elective in your school. And why I'm such a big believer in, especially for us homeschoolers, everybody certainly, but as a homeschooling mom and knowing what I know now, I'm such a big believer in making test prep another class along with your math and your English and your science. It doesn't contradict your other classes. It actually complements them because it's going to show them something completely different than what they're doing in the regular classes. But regardless of what test your child's going to take in the future, most standardized test companies follow two major key elements, two key features. The test has to be normalizing and methodical, and it has to follow the same rules on every test. Any standardized test, not only did we get free college, but my son earned free law school from colleges all across our nation. My daughter earned free grad school. I've got kids with free med school. So just know that test taking is a skill that your kids can use on so many different areas. It's almost a disadvantage if we're not teaching them test prep because they are going to be tested, maybe not just getting into college, when they're in college, at their job someday. So let me show you a couple cool things. And again, how to apply a lot of this information to other schools and getting in the mindset of a logical test. So this is taken from the GRE, the grad school test, which is written by the College Board. So if your child's going to go to grad school, they're going to, and take a GRE, they're going to have what's called analogies. Now this is where you have two prompt words here, and you have to determine the relationship between these two words, and then you have to find the correct answer. Now, we definitely know what work means, but we may not know what malinger means. So if you look down here, the answer choices, you're thinking, okay, well, pilot to flight, that is his job, that's his work. Or you see the word labor or boss, they all kind of have something to do, maybe with working. But that's actually a rabbit trail, because one of the patterns that the College Board uses is that when you have a prompt and one of the words is an unknown word, it means that these two words here are either antonyms or synonyms. So they're either opposite or the same. So if you go down here and look at your answers, you will find there's only one answer that's opposite, and that's your correct answer. Now, how many of you out there have a student who's planning on going to law school? My son is a lawyer right now in New York and took the LSAT. Again, another logic test, because if your child's going to law school, they don't know anything about law. That's why they're going to school. If you have a student who wants to go to med school, they probably don't know a lot about medicine. That's why they're going to go to school. So they're not going to test you on medicine. They're not going to test you on law. Notice this right here. Terry will go to the concert Wednesday afternoon only if Carla goes to the barbecue in the evening. Carla will not go to the barbecue unless Tom agrees to go to the barbecue. However, Tom refuses to go to the barbecue, so Terry will not go to the concert Wednesday afternoon. So does that have anything to do with law? Nothing. And then notice the question. The pattern of reasoning displayed above is most closely paralleled in which of the following? So what you're going to do is look for what's called functioning words. Now, notice, Terry will, only if, unless, and will not. Well, what if I just took the first word and the last word, will and will not, and I went down here, and I went to A, and automatically I noticed that it's opposite, will not and will, even though it has unless. B, will and will not, looks good. C, will, oops, it has although, even though it has will not. D, will, only if, oops, will is opposite, and B is, and E is also opposite. So, of course, what is our answer? Notice B, only if and unless. And I actually took too much time to do that, because if I'm just looking at will and will not, I could have automatically got rid of A, D, and E immediately, and I only had to zone in on a couple of answers. So what's the bottom line? Your SATs are going to ultimately determine where you get to go to college and who's going to pay. Your decision should not be the finances, it should be the institution. Our decision went from how in the world are we going to pay for college to where in the world should my son go to, because he had so many offers. And as a matter of fact, just getting that piece of paper, that bachelor degree, can yield as much as 182% more per week for a student than someone who does not have a bachelor's degree. And you know, opportunity, timing is a killer of opportunities. You'll notice that the sooner you start your students, the more time they have to improve. But as they get older, you'll find that it gets a little bit steeper, because you know their amount of work at school and other places is going to increase, and their opportunities are going to decrease. You will not have more time, and I hear this a lot, I'll have more time when my kids are older. No, pay attention. Families, I am for you. I want your kids to do well. But I've seen this after 14 years. As your kids get older, they get more responsibilities. They not only have school and homework and maybe a part-time job and maybe an outside class and a co-op, and they play sports and they have clubs and they go to church. You're going to have less time. Now, can your junior or senior do well? Absolutely. I've seen it. I've had seniors go up over 300 points in a week. So it can be done, but it takes the pressure off them the sooner you start. So put time on your side. The sooner you start, probably the higher your score raise, the more money you get, the better colleges you can go to. Like I said earlier, you cannot get time back. So how can your kids ace this test? Well, they can learn that the SAT, you can answer the math questions in 30 seconds or less. You can skip 75% of the passages, learn the hidden patterns, learn to only practice with actual College Board questions. Don't waste your time or money on anything but the College Board. Here are the 5 P's of success. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. And again, all this will be in your notes I'm going to send you. So again, why is scholarship money so tied directly to your test scores? That's how the colleges get their national rankings. The higher the score, the more money you get. 85% of colleges admit and give scholarship money on test scores alone. That's why it's so important to incorporate test prep and teaching your kids on how to beat this test, because you make the colleges look good, so they give you lots of cool things just because you bring their rankings up. And you know, your kids can learn to cut their time in half. We've been teaching kids this for years. We show them why the right answers are right, why the wrong ones are wrong, how to raise their score hundreds of points, become national merit scholars. And again, like I said, you can use this as an elective on your transcript. You can call it test prep, test skills, SAT prep, SAT skills. You can name it whatever you want. Now, like I said earlier, here, you know, if just learning how to take a test can apply so many different ways. These are some of the other tests that people over the years have said, hey, you know what, I use your program, you know, on the AP test, the military test, the FBI test, the civil service test. So again, it's going to, test taking skills are going to go beyond just your SATs, getting into college and getting scholarship money. We're really blessed to have won a lot of awards. Kathy Duffy has a great review on her website. I highly recommend that you read it. This is just a little excerpt from it. Read independent reviews about College Prep Genius. We've been around for 14 years. We were just named in the top 10 best SAT programs by the bestschools.org. This is not a homeschooling site. This is actually a public school site that gets about 1 million hits per month. So you can go read the article they wrote about us at the bestschools.org. You're very familiar with High St. John. They use our program, the Old Schoolhouse magazine, Mike Smith of HSLDA. So just again, don't listen to what I say. Really check out your work and check out our reputation. I'm as a homeschooling mom, I bought way more curriculum than I ever used, and I totally understand how you don't want to do that. We got lots of video testimonials. If you go to our website, collegeprepgenius.com/testimonials. So here's the exciting part of partnering with Homeschool Buyers Co-op. They are offering our program at a discount. Right now, we have a comprehensive program that's normally $189, and you can get it 21% off until actually through a couple days from now. It's $149. The link, you can go to their website, or here is the link, homeschoolbuyerscoop.org/college-prep-genius. And I'll have that in more slides in a moment, so don't worry about having to write that down. And what you're going to get is you're going to get our online program on how to beat the test. It's very mom-friendly. Mom, you don't have to do a thing. We've done it all for you. The homework guide is very detailed. The videos will teach the kids the shortcuts and strategies. They have homework that reinforces. They're going to work in their workbook. They're going to get my 30 essay templates. It's a 1-year subscription. We're going to show you how to get real SAT tests. With the upgrade, you'll also get our free novellas, e-reader, vocab cafe series that are wholesome and fun ways to learn 300 SAT words in the context of a story. And you also get the 15 secrets to free college. There are over 400 colleges that will meet as much as 100% of need for your student to get complete free college. Information on the FAFSA mistakes and just so much more. And you also get our e-reader, High School Prep Genius. Again, Kathy Duffy has a review on her website. It won the best Blue Ribbon Award for the best resource. If you have a child going to med school, there's information in there that you can actually skip the MCAT. If you have a high SAT score, skip the MCAT and actually be able to get undergrad and med school. And in some cases, you can finish in 6 years, and even with scholarships. So it's a great resource. How to do homeschool transcripts, applications, essays, how to go to Harvard for free. So so our comprehensive includes all of this for the Homeschool Buyers Co-op price of $149. It ends in 2 days. Again, you can go to their website or go to homeschoolbuyerscoop.org/college-prep-genius. And again, now how can you get the notes? Because I know I threw a lot of stuff out there. You probably felt like you were drinking from a fire hose. Get the notes and the links that I gave you by going to collegeprepgenius.com/HSBC ACE. So for Homeschool Buyers Co-op, ACE. And again, to get the special that they're offering, you want to go to their website. And again, it ends in 2 days. If you're interested, you have more questions, you can email us at info@collegeprepgenius.com. So you may have some questions. I love answering questions. So hopefully I didn't overwhelm you too much, but let's go ahead and answer some questions.
Awesome, Jean. Thank you so much. We've had a bunch of great questions, so hopefully we'll be able to get to all of them. We'll get to as many as we can. So the first one we got was, is it too soon to start preparing if my child is a freshman? What's the best time?
Oh, absolutely not. Every freshman should start. And like I said, we have 6th and 7th graders who do our program, but you have more time now. If you start now as a freshman, that gives you a couple years to really work on the test before they're a junior taking that PSAT, which counts for big scholarship money. The thing about it is you can't get time back, and there's no instant success. You cannot shortcut the shortcut. And by starting early, you have time to work on your weaknesses. I mean, you wouldn't learn a couple of chords on the piano today, and then the next week you're playing Beethoven. You wouldn't learn a couple of moves in football, and then the next week you're at a championship. Because we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of scholarship money, start early. Some kids will pick it up easier than others, and some will need more time. And that's why, and you may not know what your child, which one they're going to fall under. So start early.
So the other side of it is we had somebody ask, my son is a senior. Have I waited too long?
I can tell you lots of stories of seniors who have not waited too long. Right now, you have, as a senior, you have 6 more SATs and 5 more ACTs this year. That's a lot of tests that they can take, and most colleges will let you take even up until June before college actually starts, and some will even let you take the August SAT right before college. No, by no means, you have not blown it. I've seen it. I had a lady FPEA this year came up to my booth and said it was her son had one chance left to get the Bright Future Scholarship. And it was 5 days until the SAT. And she bought my program at the very end of the conference. This was at the end of May. And he raised his math 160 points. He was a senior. And he took the June SAT. And he got the full ride Bright Future Scholarship. So again, don't wait till that late. But there's also no age limit. So if you have a student that's already out of high school and graduated, they can still take the SAT and get scholarship money.
We have a few people that are asking about the year subscription of College Prep Genius. Most of the questions are, they are curious if they can use it for more than one child or if they need separate subscription.
No, absolutely. I do not mind that you use it for all your children. They'll track the progress of the first student. The other kids will just need to keep the track of where they're at on the test. A lot of people do buy a separate one. There's a discount if you buy a separate one, but you don't have to. I don't mind. We are not out to gouge families, and we had no money for college, and people ask me all the time, why aren't you charging $1,000, $5,000 because you have 14 years of testimonials? We're not going to do that. That's not how we operate. We want you to be successful. And so, and we know, especially for homeschooling, as a homeschooling mom myself, we know what it's like to have one income. And so absolutely, you can use it for all your kids.
So we have a couple of people who are seniors right now who are on, and then some people who have already purchased the program, and they're all curious what they can do. Is there anything they can do to fast track, or what they can do to improve quickly for the upcoming test?
Well, if you haven't taken an SAT yet, you should always take a baseline score that we have we point you to the one on our website from the College Board. So you want to know where your starting point is, because you're not going to know how much you've improved unless you do that. If you want to do a fast track, what I would recommend is figure out which area is your weakest, if it's math or if it's reading or writing, and concentrate on that one area and spend your time on that. If you've got a test coming up and you're like, oh, I just only have a limited amount of time, then work on that. And remember, colleges super score. Let's say you take and you say, I'm going to spend the next few weeks on this reading section and really, really work on it and do practice tests after practice tests. And you go in there and you get an amazing reading score. Maybe your math is so-so. Now, for the next test you take, concentrate on your math and spend all your time on that. Because then you get a better math score. Then most colleges will take high scores from different tests.
Thank you. Is there any way to get the test booklet back other than testing on Wednesdays?
Well, they used to give you all the test booklet backs, which is so frustrating. But I will tell you kind of a little secret. And it's not every school, but most counselors save extra test booklets in their office. And and again, this is not every school, this is not every counselor. Check around, go in there once the test is coming on, go in there and see if there's any extra, if they save the extra, because what they do is they order so many ahead of time. And there's, some kids don't show up for class, or some kids are absent, or maybe they just ordered extra. They often save them. I've been in counselors' offices where they saved years of PSAT test booklets, and I asked for every one of them, and I got them. So do that, try that, and see if you can get some extra that way.
Okay, and we're very low on time, so we'll just keep it to two more questions. One asks, is this considered cheating?
So, you know, I've heard that many times over the years, but let me first define cheating. Cheating is if I gave you the answers ahead of time. That would be cheating. If you're going to take a history test, you study history. If you're going to take a geography test, you study geography. If you're going to take a logic test, then what you do is you study the logical patterns of the test so that you can beat the test. So it's definitely not cheating. You're going in prepared knowing that they use the same recurring patterns and same rules on every test. And if you know them, you can find the answers quickly. But again, it's not instant success. There's a lot of information to learn. You might spend weeks or even several months to raise your score a few hundred points, but it definitely can pay off. So it's not like you're going to one day read the test, go over the strategies, and you're going to instantly have it down. So what you're doing is you're learning how the test is written and how the answers are written.
Okay, and our last question is, as a homeschooler, how do we find out where to take the PSATs? Unfortunately, the schools in our area aren't very friendly with homeschoolers.
And by the way, that's discrimination. And I would definitely report them to the College Board because they're supposed to be, and they're supposed to allow anybody to take the test. Their website says that. So when you go on to the College Board website, there's a school search. Put your zip code in. It will tell you what schools are giving the PSAT. I also would ask your friends, where did they take the test and what kind of experience do they have there? Because you don't want to have a bad experience, and I've seen that many times too. Also, have your homeschool group or support group co-op check into becoming a testing site. If they become a testing site, having a facility, then they can administer the test.
I hope you all join me in giving Jean a huge thank you. That was wonderful. We will send you a recording of the webinar along with the link for Jean's notes that she mentioned via email within the next 24 hours. I just want to remind you that for a very limited time, only through Thursday, College Prep Genius is available at the co-op for a whopping 21% off, and we are offering 1,500 bonus smart points, which gives you an extra $15 in buying power. Once again, thank you, Jean, and thank you to all of our members who have joined us today and letting us be a part of your afternoon. Thanks so much.
Thank you.